Hey, listen, man. I can't tell. I can't tell the poor guy that they're doing this move on. He looks like an Antifa reject. He looks like a guy. They're like, nah, you can't even be with us, dude. Like, you can't. Nah. They wrap him up. They take him down. I don't know where the money comes from. I think what they're simulating is now you can search him and you'll pull his money out and you'll pull the knife out and you'll hold it. And, you know, while it's kind of funny to laugh at, I think in one way I have a lot of respect for these guys and that this is something that could help law enforcement. Certainly could for sure use some specific grappling tactical training. 100%. Do they all need to do full-blown jiu-jitsu? Probably not. But things like this are good. Where it gets icky is when it's like, well, this is a trademark and you got to get a license and you can go through our certification. And I understand that there's particular reasons for doing that, especially if you have to back this up in a court of law. But you know, how is this going to work? What if somebody safe wraps somebody out on the street and it's on World Star and they haven't purchased the license and gone through the training? Are they going to get a bill in the mail? Are they going to be subject to something? Like, I just don't see this making its way through the legal process. And at the same time, it's like, damn, if you really want to do good for the jiu-jitsu community, trademark it so nobody else can like do what you're doing and then give it away for free. And just make it open license and say, hey, everyone can use this. Everyone can get this kind of, you know, training online or whatever. It's just like, man, I don't know, dude. It's an odd thing. And if you look at their website, they have a pretty in-depth section where they're answering or they're attempting to answer these kinds of questions, like what if I use this in jiu-jitsu, or you know, things like that. So they've thought about it. Obviously, this isn't their first rodeo. They're really smart business dudes, but at the same time, it's like, just do something where people are going to look at it and go like, dude, that is awesome. You know, this is not that. So
okay. Let me see if I can clean some stuff here. I don't know what the full intentions of the trademark are. I've read, I want to say somewhere, I thought they said that they were trademarking it, but that they might give it away in certain aspects. So I'm not sure we know the full details about that. My notes here are only as a producer. Okay. And let me walk you guys through this video one more time in case you're just joining us. And I'll walk you through why I think this is a good first draft, but maybe our issues aren't necessarily with safe wrap. And you'll notice anybody from the trademark office, we put it in quotation marks. So don't come at this. Also, we're in jiu-jitsu, so nobody makes money here. So don't even remotely try to do that. But let's go back and look here. My note has less to do with the technique and more to do with the casting. Let us take a look. First off, as Tim mentioned, look at this kid. This kid is not your ideal person to cast in this because he is so smiley and so happy to be taken down here. One, he doesn't look like a threat. And two, by the time he does get around to getting hogtied and held down here, when they put the money out, it looks like you're stealing from a computer nerd. Like, it's not an evil doer here. We could do well to cast someone a little more nefarious, but homeboy over here looks like the safest human being in the entire world. So I wasn't necessarily mad about the concept or the idea. I was more so like, I think this dude was just trying to get something from Chick-fil-A and then got accosted by two people who know jiu-jitsu who basically said, you look like you're robbing something. And he's like, I'm innocent, dude. I just wanted my deluxe chicken crispy wrap, you dicks. So
like, yeah, you're teaching cops to do this too? Like, it looks like they just took down a guy that wasn't doing anything wrong at all.
So just since I'm back, sorry, that was That was funny. I watched that video. Actually, I saw it when I was doing a little the research before the show. And so what they were doing is they threw the money and the knife down, and they were telling the dude to try to go get it. And so they were showing the efficacy of the control that they had over this kid, since he wouldn't go get the stack of money or the knife and try to kill him or get the money. That's what that was about. But that's whatever, stupid. But the technique in and of itself, I kind of like what they're saying. I've had some experience working with some law enforcement, and during some of the things that we were doing, especially earlier on, the dogpiling thing that they show in the video a little bit does happen. Like people that are untrained, they like jump on, two guys on the one guy. But then what happened several times is that the one officer would knock the other officer off or out of control of the person. So then they would both lose control of the person, and then be able to, to continue on and get away. And so you have to separate the upper and lower bodies like that a lot. And I do like the double gift wrap in jiu-jitsu. If you can do that, that's pretty good. I don't know about that clover leaf. I've never done that, but it seems legit.
To be
It looks
fair,
sick.
it's the type of dumb shit I do when I'm rolling with people. Like, I get very much into, is this a pro wrestling move? I'm going to do this now. And then I just kind of see what I can get away with here. I'm going to develop a system here. I'm going to trademark it. I'm going to call it the unsafe wrap, because you don't quite know if it's going to work for you. And I feel like it's a choose your own adventure version of it, at your own risk, if you would. And I don't know, maybe there's some real branding opportunities. Maybe that's what we need to do here. We all just need to brand one jiu-jitsu move and make sure that nobody else makes money off of it. Because I think the weird part is, to go back to even Mikey, when Mikey started credentialing the Mikey lock, and people were like, that's not that, I've seen that before. Like, the only thing maybe he was guilty of is taking inspiration from something, but it showed you two different reactions here. The first is, everybody feels they created something. Most people have not. But two, the benefit of marketing, like the benefit of branding your shit and just saying like, this is the RAF log. So one thing I have over the years trademarked, and I'm probably going to have to do this now. When somebody gets you in mount, I literally do this. This is what has been referred to as RAF guard. And the idea is yeah, you just literally do this, let him go to town. And it's my way of saying, I don't know you. I've never rolled with you. If you submit me, you submit me. And people hate it. When I teach classes, they say, how do I beat it? And I always tell them, I'm like, well, just be decent at jiu-jitsu and you'll probably beat it. But for branding purposes, I've had people who have never rolled with me going up and being like, wow, can't wait to see that RAF guard. And I go, huh? We've never rolled, dude. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So there is a benefit in branding. I will say that. But I will say, it is a noble cause to take up. I'm glad that they are starting to do that sort of stuff more and more. I think we're curious about what the actual implications of a trademark are. And if what I have heard is true, maybe it's a little bit lenient on that trademark. There's more to be discovered there. But more than anything, we should be trying to teach our law enforcement some kind of non-lethal version of it. And especially when you have events like this weekend, everything that we can do to help protect people should always be utilized, especially if it's nonviolent. So more the merrier. It's just, if you look at that video and you don't think part of it's funny without the noise or the sound of it, don't come looking at me, because even they're smiling and they're laughing. So I think we should be able to do that. All right, let's go to our next topic here. And Tim, you brought this one up. I'm going to lead back to you with this one, which is, it does appear right now that both the rosters, knock on whatever it is, for both the Craig Jones Invitational and ADCC are locked. Have you noticed any changes, and what were the last changes? Tim, I go to you first.
I think there were more changes. So let's see. I think CJI finished out the over 80 kilogram bracket with, and I don't know if I got this dude's last name pronounced right. He's a wrestler from Penn State. It's Daniel Greg Kirkvliet. I think Kirkvliet. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But this guy's a 3-time NCAA All-American. He won his first individual title last season. He's a real tough wrestler. I was listening to him earlier this week on a podcast with where, you know, the host was asking him, hey man, you know, what about this CJI thing? And most of the podcast was about wrestling. And he just said, like, yeah, man, I'm getting into jiu-jitsu. I've trained jiu-jitsu before. Obviously he's an accomplished wrestler. He's probably not as accomplished in the jiu-jitsu world, but depending on the rule set and the way this works, like, he might be able to push somebody up against that pit wall and take him down and not have any trouble at all with them. I don't know, but I think it's kind of a cool addition. I probably, you know, would be kind of cool to see him take somebody else from ADCC just to really stoke the fire. But I think this is a pretty good addition to it overall. The rest of the adjustments seem to be like a pretty big flurry of them on the ADCC side. They added several athletes, 4 or 5 over the last few days. Josh Hinger's one of them, probably the most notable, which I kind of was like, how's, you know, this is kind of shaping up to be Gordon Ryan's tournament against Craig Jones's tournament. And Gordon Ryan has talked a lot of trash online about Josh Hinger. So I think it's kind of funny now that they're in the same tournament. But yeah, I think they're both going to do good. If you look at the overall rosters, there's some really talented jiu-jitsu on both sides, especially the lighter weights at ADCC. It's stacked. There's no competition to that. So I think it's going to be overall a great weekend for jiu-jitsu. It's just unfortunate we don't get to see them all fight each other. So
a fair assessment. What did you notice in these last announcements here, Stephen?
Noticing basically, like you said, with this last pickup here, I was researching him to being a 3-time All-American. The thing that kind of was making me think about was maybe like a earlier ADCCs where guys were coming in with like a grappling style instead of maybe having, you know, a really well-rounded blended wrestling and jiu-jitsu kind of style of things. So someone like him coming in with the addition of the alley, I guess is what it's called, like Tim said, that may be something that really plays to his advantage in this scenario versus other people. I think having these kind of guys that have done events where you do rounds or periods may give them an advantage, because this one's going to be doing multiple rounds from what I understand, of where you'll start and stop and go back, and you'll win each round more than you'll have like a continuous kind of scoring. So I think the people who've been picked up like with MMA experience and maybe like a real wrestling background may have a better advantage in this rule set than they would have even in ADCC.
Yeah, I mean, listen, dude, I'm happy that we're now at a place where we know who the players are. Like, it is kind of cool to be able to look at these rosters and say, like, all right, cool. Now no more speculation. Let these gentlemen get to work. I know that Craig was saying, like, hey, you got to give me this last person for the heavyweights because we're running out of time. I think they're literally just trying to make all the promotional material that they can and then just get to work on the missing components. And that makes me excited, but it's also vaguely concerning. So it is kind of one of those things where you go, okay, so what exactly is going to happen here? Like, what does person A against person B look like as we start to get this going? And it does allow you, I've seen some people start to make brackets here. I don't know if we're that bold just yet.
Yeah.
I do want to point this out. I do recognize something did happen on our stream. So I'm going to pitch what I think did happen. And it is slightly concerning news. But for whatever reason, we were airing for 32 minutes uninterrupted. And then somebody texted me. It was like, I'm missing the stream. I'm so sorry. And I go, how'd you miss the stream? You couldn't have missed the stream. The stream's happening right now. I think our video stopped because we were airing the TMZ footage. So if you are seeing this broken up, our apologies, but we were bringing you newsworthy information. So that was It's a little bit of a surprise to me, especially when somebody's like, I missed the stream. And I go, how? I'm still talking.
Yeah.
I'm literally editing it right now as we go. So if you guys were involved in that process, we apologize if it somehow kicked you out and brought you back in. But here we are. We have not moved. I'll check Tim's stream a little bit later. But nonetheless, gentlemen, I think we have talked about that being done in itself. Excited for that. Now we're going to talk about a topic that, Stephen, you proposed, and I'd like to get more information on this. So I'm going to turn it to you in a second. But you were asking what rule set or competition style is one that would lend itself for slams. So it seems like you're taking the pro slam stance, but I think you're wondering if there are to be slams, where could it be done in a way where maybe it doesn't leave our athletes going to the hospital shortly thereafter?
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with that. I think that it's a huge part of the martial aspect of grappling is being able to slam somebody and you basically can knock people out and finish fights with slamming people very easily. So I think it's something that should be allowed up to a certain degree, right? But nobody wants to see anybody paralyzed or seriously injured or anything like that. And so the thing I was trying to like pose is there a specific flooring type situation, the even like a elevated like ring situation, like for the pro wrestling or gymnastics floor? Is it, something that would have, like a rounded shape so there wouldn't be any sharp edges or something? So that would, I don't know, like the Yama pit or something like that. I'm not sure. With some of that, like the soft kids like playground stuff on there that looks really cool. Though that's not, I don't know, but I think it's an important part because people get away with a lot of things that you could just slam and get out of.
Fair enough. Tim, I'm going to open that up to you.
Yeah, I think you're really onto something here. For one, I mean, judo and wrestling, they slam all the time, but it's in a different context. I think specifically what we're talking about here is slamming somebody if they have you in a submission or in some kind of guard where you can pick them up off of their back or they're already kind of in a vulnerable position. You can elevate them and slam them. The right answer is there's ways to build subfloors in, and some schools have pretty forgiving subfloors where you can take reasonably, hard slams and get up and do it again. But I think I'm onto something a little different. Do you guys, and maybe you remember this, maybe you don't, it was a real niche sport. It was called slam ball. And it was basketball. Hear me out on this. Basketball played on a trampoline. And you guys, you probably heard of Sky Zone or Fly Zone or these places with these big giant trampolines. We should do jujitsu sub only with slams on the trampoline. Nobody gets hurt. And for the first time ever, we can see the ultra heavyweights do flying submissions. Because the heavier the weight, the bigger the launch. We could see a 350 pounder shoot a flying triangle. You talk about exciting. That's exciting. No injury. Because if we really want slams to be, we either got to take all the risk out or we got to add the risk in and be like, hey, if you get slammed, you're getting slammed on the concrete, dog.
I want to revise that.
I would get the opportunity to do a flying triangle. I'm in.
On a trampoline, yes, you would.
Sign me up.
I want to revise that. You either we either take out the risk or we double down on the risk. That's got to be the exact phraseology that we use on that. Well, let me say this. I think you alluded to this, Stephen, but the possibility of the engineers from the old McDonald's playgrounds, if we all agreed that no one was to pee on them, I think we've got a solid shot here, because I can tell you this. I remember doing ridiculous things on that playground and not at all getting injured. And I feel that is the way you have to go. Like, I feel like you need that kind of bounce. And it begs a certain kind of question, which is, when floors get really slidey because there's so much sweat, or mats get so much slidiness, now you got to put in that bounce into your guard passing. You got to put that bounce into your escapes or your retention. And I wonder if that changes things, because I feel like you get some jiu-jitsu purists who are going to be like, hey man, you know what? I'm not doing this here because there's too much give in this mat. And it's like, well, now it's a new challenge. Now we're asking you to do jiu-jitsu as if you were in a McDonald's playground from the 80s and 90s. And if you can't do it, that's fine. It's just, we're going to give props to those who can now. So I don't know. I mean, if there's one thing you're asking for here, Stephen, you ask it at a right time, which is a month away from us seeing what it's going to look like at the Craig Jones Invitational, when we've seen other individuals use the pit. Now we're going to see some of our most captivating stars. And you're going to see people like Andy Varela, who's going to look at that. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a backflip off of that. I wouldn't be surprised if you see somebody like a Tackett brother still going off the mats. Like, just because it angles up doesn't mean people won't be charging full force and doing a tackle off those mats. It just gives us a little bit of an assurance that, like, maybe it won't happen. Maybe they won't do it. But all of these guys are criminally insane. So it is a high likelihood that some kind of nonsense is still going to happen. And Wallow J does say, let's go, Tim. I'm down for some slam ball basketball. Let's go. So
he don't even want to do jiu-jitsu. He just wants to play basketball.
Listen, dude, you know what? Honestly, it makes more money than we do.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to mock anything that like makes more money. By the way, can I just put this in the chat? For those of you guys who love to make fun of the WNBA and their numbers, please remember we don't have those numbers in jiu-jitsu. So every time you go after them and you're like, this Caitlin Clark thing, it's like Caitlin Clark is 1,000 times bigger than Gordon Ryan. And more importantly, when we're arguing about her numbers, we would kill for those numbers. We get them once every 2 years. And this year we might have more. And it's nice to think that. So when people are arguing about other sports, all I think of is the call is coming from inside the house. So please, for the love of God, don't mock other sports that have viewership that is better than ours. Let's pick on other sports. We can't even pick on pickleball. Like, they have better numbers than us. They have distribution. They are legitimately on Paramount Plus. We aren't. We are on Flow Grappling Minus. That's where our sport airs.
We can't even pick on God damn, I forgot the name of that stupid sport where you throw the beanbag through the hole.
Cornhole. We can't.
Cornhole. We can't.
Of course we can't.
A sport called cornhole has more viewers than jiu-jitsu.
Curling, you name it. There's a lot of shit. And guess what? We're going to see some stuff happening at the Summer Olympics here in a few weeks. And when that shit happens, it's going to get real dark here for some of us. Because, we love those big sports. But there's going to be one sport that everybody attaches to that you go, yeah, it's still cooler than us. Oh, boy. Breaking news. President Biden has tested positive for COVID, according to the White House.
Oh, wow.
Well,
how does that affect the WNBA?
How does that affect the WNBA? Well, according to him, he might think he's at a WNBA game right now. And it would explain some of that shit. I don't know. You know what? The only reason I bring that up is I just like the idea that even if his voice is still affected, like, what does Biden sound like with COVID in him? Like, if his voice is already kind of like, hey, I'm right down here, guys. Somebody now started having him COVID, and now you're thinking, like, maybe he talks normal. You know what? Shit, maybe it's going to reverse him. Let's see what happens there.
Has an opposite effect.
Oh, Michael Libby says cornhole is serious. Michael, you're unserious. You have to be the most unserious commenter in our commenter section, sir. Gentlemen, we still have two more topics here to go through. Stephen, thank you for that. I like that one as a topic because it is something we have not addressed, but at the same point, perhaps should address. Gentlemen, I don't know if you know this. GSP, one of our most revered individuals, basically alluded to this week that he had a grappling super fight that he had to turn down. He was in the middle of preparing for a match against one, I think it was Nick. Was it Nick Diaz?
Nick Diaz.
It was a Nick Diaz. He basically decided he was going to do this, but then said he got injured. And I'd like to read you a little bit of what GSP was saying, as only I can, which is, I am extremely competitive, and sometimes I forget that I am 42-year-old and I don't give myself enough rest. And that is why I think I partially tore my labrum, my subscap, and my rotator cuff. But my shoulder is getting better, and we'll see how I go. When he said that, that felt good. However, he also alluded to the fact that when he had to drop out of that match, that because he's so much older, he is obsessive compulsive, and that when that happened, he think he need to do a lot of training, and now he realized his body cannot do that. So it begs the question here, gentlemen, are you prepared for a world where maybe you never see one GSP? We already knew about the MMA retirement, but the fact that they were teasing a grappling return may not be a real thing anymore. Maybe GSP has come to terms with not competing in any form of combat sports, but have you come to terms with it? Stephen Aiken, I start with you.
Yeah, a long time ago, I really did. I would have been okay watching GSP come back and do grappling matches, but at best, he would have done okay and won some stuff. But I would have afraid that he would have came out here and like tarnished his legacy in some way somehow. The sports changed a ton since he was really out there, and jiu-jitsu's even changed. Not to say that he couldn't compete, but he would never be one of the elite guys. And I just wouldn't want him to get out here and look bad, and then people that didn't see him back at his best, let him I don't know, have that as, his legacy in their minds, if that makes any sense. So I'm totally fine with it. I like to see the legends staying out if they can. I don't really like to see the farewell tours in fighting and in combat sports that much because when it's gone, and the day comes for all of us when that's true. And you just got to be able to accept it and be okay with it. And I wouldn't want to see him take unnecessary damage.
Okay, I'll bring up 2 points here before I go over to Tim. But the first is going to be this. Steven, if you think about it, John Cena just announced he's going to have a retirement tour that's going to be akin to Kobe Bryant's victory lap as he got out. So he gets to end on his terms, arguably older, way less nimble than GSP, sure. I just felt this one other fact is something we should keep in mind, which is that GSP regularly trains with Gordon Ryan, with Gary Tonin, with those individuals. So it's not like he's going to see some variation of something he hasn't really experienced in his own room. And at his best, even when he was undermined, he and his team were experts at strategy, and that did help them. So to me, that was my one thing where I go, grappling keeps him around the sport a little bit better. And I don't know that he even is incapable of doing it, but I think he's telling you that his own mentality, he recognizes, is not where it needs to be for him because he's that obsessed, for him to be comfortable. And that's the part that I found worrisome about that in terms of not seeing him in combat. So, Tim, I'll give you some more time right now, but are you prepared to go ahead and say, so long, set sail to the GSP boat?
Well, there's a couple things. One is, GSP is a class act. He's a winner. And I think the problem with winners is if they don't think they can win anymore, they don't want to play. Some people aren't winners, they're players, and they're more into the fact that they're playing the game is more important than the result of the game. I think GSP wants to win. He wants to win at everything he does. So, having said that, it doesn't super surprise me that he's not going to be out there competing where there's a win and a loss on the record. Okay. The better question, though, is this. Can you live in a world where you don't get to see Nick Diaz fight again? That's the world I don't want to live in. That's the guy I want to see continue to grapple and continue to fight. GSP's great. Yeah, he's the GOAT, but I'm talking 209, Nick Diaz Army. Let's go. I want to see that guy back in action. I want to see that guy fighting again. I know everyone loves GSP. Everyone also loves Nick Diaz. That fight would have been fantastic. That would have been a great grappling match. Nick has had 2 opportunities against big names that haven't panned out. Braulio Stima back at the World Jiu-Jitsu Expo in 2012 and George St. Pierre in 2023. It would have been really cool to see that. GSP's a great dude. I think, he's going to be around martial arts probably for a long time. We're just not going to see him out there competing. I just think he's a competitive guy. He's OCD about not being a loser. That's what he is. And so if he feels like he's going to lose, he probably doesn't want to do it. So hats off to him. That guy's got enough money. He should be set. He's probably, an addiction to that feeling, that energy you get when you're putting yourself out there that he misses. But, too bad, so sad, dude. I don't know what to tell you. You're a Hall of Fame UFC fighter. You did all right, my friend. So kudos to him.
There's a large part of me that just go ahead, Steven.
I was just saying, just basically like that right there. Kudos, you're the UFC champion. Let it be, man. And the hard part about that is, which kind of like you said, that I think is what you were saying, Raf, is that you're a little concerned for his mental state, not having the competitive things to keep him going and things. That's what I was saying. At some point, you've got to kind of face that, and if that's now or later, the longer he kicks it down the road, the worse it'll eventually be. And if he's tearing his labrum and his shoulders now at this age and pushing himself this hard, it's obviously a problem for him that he can't get over. And he's just going to keep doing the injury stuff to himself as he gets older and older and older, because that's what happens as you try to push at elite levels of athleticism.
We did get a question here, and I'll do this one now because we have other questions we'll get to at the end for our open forum. But this one is from Wallow J. It says, I wonder what Nate Diaz had to say about GSP pulling out. Well, good for you. We do actually have the ability to figure that out. I somehow have the same ability that Oda Mae in the movie Ghost has, which is the ability to possess spirits. So this is what I believe Nate Diaz would have said in response to GSP pulling out. He was just being a fucking little bitch. Nate would have fucked him up. Everybody knows that. That shit was on lockdown. Then, GSP's like, oh shit, I can't win, so maybe I'm gonna pull out. Oh, I'm so sad. I used to be really good and like a champion. Dog, nobody cares, okay? It's all about me. I beat that fucking bitch Masvidal. I'll beat his ass too. Just line him up. That's all I gotta say. You're welcome. I'm glad you did that because those are 2 of my top tier impressions. So if you can ever find a way to couple GSP and Nate Diaz at the same time, I will 100% take it. And there was a time when I had a decent Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz almost goes a little bit higher into a Navajo kind of dialect. And I don't know if I'd be canceled for doing that impression anymore. So we'll get to that later. All right, gentlemen, we press on to our next one. And Michael Libby, we will address your question a little bit later. So hold tight on that one. This is a dad fight. Now, gentlemen, I'd like for both of you to take an opportunity to watch this clip. And I would like for you to give your black belt insights to this dad fight that happened. And I don't have the context for it. All I have is the fact that they got into a fight. And I'm also going to require that you guys give us the context as to what was going on here. But let's go ahead and look at it just from what it is. Yes, these 2 gentlemen come in with an overhook, now starting to look to take the back. Doesn't quite get it, but he does drag him down. Looking for a sweep, goes to guard. And now I have to say, the top dad definitely coming in with some good ground and pound. Even if he's not fully landing every one of these punches, they are definitely starting to make his opponent get bloodied. So let's start over here, and I'm going to start with you, Tim. rank that fight on a scale that you feel is appropriate.
Well, and then I'm going to ask a favor from you. But first, I thought it was a good fight. In terms of dad fights, it wasn't bad. Both guys went for takedowns. Both guys showed some knowledge. They showed a casual viewer's knowledge of UFC. I'm sure these guys watch the fights on the weekends, or maybe not every fight, but they're watching some of them. They're for sure not training. Dude on the bottom was a little too thick to lock his guard, so he was playing like an open guard off of his back. He was trying to control the head, trying to maintain posture. The problem is when both guys got a big gut, you can't really close the distance the same way. So he's pulling on the head. The other dude's raining overhands over the top of that. And we could see he got a good connection. But if there's any way to play that back, I want you to just look at it with the mindset that, because you'll see they're both looking at the ground, that both of these guys are looking for crack. They're both looking down. They're both trying to get something. Look, he goes down. He's like, "Where's it at? I'm gonna get it. No, I'll get your leg instead. I'm gonna get it." They're both trying to get something off of the ground. This is not bad. Dude on bottom should have got a butterfly hook and did a little elevator sweep on the dude on top.
I mean,
got it.
To be honest, I know you made a mention of closed guard here. I actually think closed guard would have made that worse for him. I think if you had closed it, the dude would have been like, "Oh, we're locked in here together, tight, wham, wham." I felt like that to me was something that would provoke dads to talk about their barbecue. And I felt like it was them arguing whose asada was better. And I want to point this out. Michael Libby with the 10 out of 10 comment himself saying that was over cornhole. And I have to say, top tier comment. Like, Michael, you might have won the comment section today.
He had the most unserious and the best. Good job.
You know what? The most unserious and the best. Stephen, I'm asking you now, rank that fight on whatever scale you deem appropriate. I think you're muted, my friend. By the way,
I'm gonna crop myself out.
Hold on. Can I just point this out real quick, just for everybody at home? That was the most beautiful silent film acting I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, Stephen Aiken with no sound is the best 1920s movie. Literally got all the Oscars right then and then. All to you, sir.
That was fantastic.
I'm gonna have to play that back now and watch myself there at work. But like I was trying to say, there's so many takeaways from this thing here. This is definitely over a child's like basketball game at the YMCA. One of these guys said something smart to the ref, and then the kid cried or something, and so they agreed to take it outside. You can look up, and it's pretty clear if you look in the background. That's like outside of a rec center or something. And then the other thing, dude really swung that uppercut you see from a little bit too far away, and that's how he exposed his back. Very common like mistake that happens right there when you get off balance. Boom. Dude tries to grab right here and to pause it right there before this takedown. That's something I've actually had happen to me in an MMA fight before. When I tried to get a guy's back, he grabbed that terrible single leg right there where you should have the seatbelt and like took me down. So that's a very common like street fight situation that you can find yourself in. People who are untrained very much or just doing desperate things, they're going to grab the leg that's closest to them. So got to work on your like stepping back or maybe pulling the guy over or something right there from that turtle position. It's pretty poor technique by Gray Shirt Dad. And then off the back, definitely not a closed guard situation. He's holding the guy's head. Every dad knows that you got to make range in a street fight. You got to be all the way in or all the way out. Complete missed opportunity for the scissor sweep here. 0 out of 10 for Gray Shirt Dad on the bottom. But 10 out of 10 for the experience.
You know what?
That's harsh.
Steven,
that's harsh.
I have to say, I don't know how many times y'all are doing fight breakdowns over on the PGF Insiders, but it's invitation to do more, I think, is what we just saw here on this week, actually. Legitimately, the best part to me is that you actually had some PTSD from your own fight experience where you're like, oh, I know that leg sweep. God, oh. And I have
There's
to
a
say,
picture of this in the fight that I have like on my social media somewhere that it's stuck in my mind forever because they caught the image. They got him grabbing my leg right there. And it's like, oh, 1, 2, 3 pictures, and now I'm on my back, and he punches me between the eyes.
honestly, it's the picture that I'm sure hurt more than the punch in the eyes. So
Yeah, the adrenaline's, hell of
yeah.
a drug.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you for that. And to those two fathers, thank you so much. It looked like you were outside of a Nordstrom to me. And that's why when I saw it, I was like, did you guys fight over a sale that your wives were really, really all about? Like, did one of your wives want something and you're like, that bitch took that last thing? And it's like, how dare she take that last candle? I'm going to go talk to her husband and we're going to have words. And the dude's like, I've been waiting for this all day, man. Let's go. So there definitely was.
It's like that Marshawn Lynch video where he's like, is there a man with you?
Is there
any men with you?
Are there two guys that are safe wrap certified near? Because I don't want to do it if there are. You would need 4 in that situation. You need 4 certified safe wrap engineers.
You know what it is? You know who could have used that? This poor child could have used either one of these dads to come through and help him on out.
Looks like safe wrap might get you knocked out, according to this video we just saw. If you're not too careful, your partner misses that double leg in the clover leaf.
It's just, there's a part of me that every time I do different clips together, I just go like, well, listen, I don't think they're connected, but those definitely were in their own way. Gentlemen, we go to one of our last topics here. And yes, it is the return of the Jabroni, but I guess it begs the question, what is the Jabroni going to be up to? Now, listen, we don't know exactly who is going to be involved at PGF Season 7. You would assume that the Jabroni himself would be part of the proceedings as somebody who's been in a number of the PGF series in previous years. However, it does seem like they are starting to curtail or trying to make it so that less people from one team are going to be represented. If that is the way of the future, and there's already, I believe it's been said that Ryan Aiken will be competing in that, it begs the question, if he has a teammate in the Jabroni, does he have to go through a trials process? Are they going to make an exception? How does that work? I am not quite clear on it. But I guess the question that we will pose here to the group is, and we'll start with you, Stephen Aiken, what does a journey back to the PGF look like for somebody who is so closely associated to it all?
And that was why I wanted to bring up the question to the show here. Is it's really interesting. Someone that's been very important to the PGF and been on multiple seasons, represented very well last season. Not getting an automatic invite to this season is a little bit kind of weird. We're not necessarily like best buddies in the world, but I've grown to be a bit of a Jabroni fan, and that the PGF is part of the show, in lots of ways. So if he's not there, I definitely would probably miss those interactions in a way. So I think from what I understand, the way back is that he have to go through a qualifier, and with the qualifiers that are out, there's 3 of them already listed that you could go through, and I don't know that he would want to do that to get into the season. I don't know that he would really I don't feel like he should have to do that or not, even though, like a teammate or whatever may have already gotten his, the spot for their team. So I would like to know, I haven't really asked him myself. I could do that, I guess, too. But I'd like to know, what everybody thinks if Elijah has to win through a qualifier, to get back into the season. Do you guys think that that's something, that he would be willing to do based on what we know about him so far?
That is a great question. Let's go ahead and bring it back to the panel right now. I'll start here with my thoughts. I'm less about him having to earn his way back through jiu-jitsu. I think I'm at a phase now where if we can give him an obstacle course, maybe that's the better thing to go through. Or we do it like he has to win a card game And I know card games can be difficult, so I'm thinking
Lock
maybe
him in a
what it
room with
is.
Kevin Sherrill for 24
Oh
hours.
God. You know what?
And then he's
Hey, I
invited.
like that
Nah,
idea.
those two are gonna make out by the end of it, dude. Like, you ever notice that
Great
those
show.
two hate each other so
Couple of
much
sluts.
that they're both gonna be like, nobody's around? I love you, man. I always have. And then all of a sudden they like let it all out where they're just like, I've always hated you because I loved you. So I don't know. Sometimes yin and yang kind of need each other, and I feel like that's what they are. I feel like for the purpose of the PGF, they do serve
It worked.
exactly what they're supposed to do. So maybe they're like two entertainers who have to go on tour together. I was like, I can't stand this dude. It is. It's Martin and Lewis. That's exactly what it is. Not Steve Martin. It's Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, who notoriously had to do a co-bill together but hated each other. Happens all the time. Let me say this though. I think instead of giving him like a card game, you give him a high-low where it's like you start and you're like, it's an 8. Is it higher or lower than an 8? And he's just like, what is this all about? And it's like, if you get it right, you're in PGF season 7. If you get it wrong, you have to be on the bullpen with RAF ESPARZA. And I feel like those are two uncertain quantities that could come back. Tim, what are your thoughts?
I think I love the PGF, and you know, Elijah and I have had an on again, off again relationship, but I have a lot of respect for him. He's a very great jiu-jitsu competitor, and maybe I'm talking out of turn here, but I think the PGF really needed Elijah Carlton or someone like Elijah Carlton, and he was there. And I think the tables might have turned a little bit where he needs them a little more now than they potentially need him. And I don't mean that like in a disrespectful way. I'm just trying to look at this objectively. Having said that, though, I think he's earned a spot on that roster. In having to go through the qualifiers, you know, I could make a case for him not wanting to do that. I would understand if he's like, no, I don't want to do that. But that almost means like I'm never going to be back in the PGF, which I hope not. I think that I would like to see him on season 7. I think he definitely has a place there. But it may be more, you know, there's growing pains when an amateur sport starts to make professional strides and it starts to operate in the professional arena. And that's where all this is going. And we talk about professional wrestlers and you talk about Cody Rhodes and that guy, he's got so much respect because he's a professional. And that is what we're needing to see out of more and more jiu-jitsu athletes in general that are going to want to do things like the PGF. And I think, you know, it's probably more a matter of expectations and getting things lined up. Like, what does the PGF need from the athletes and what do the athletes need from the PGF? And having a real open communication and then abiding by it, not just hearing it and then going like, I'm going to do whatever I want. That doesn't work, especially when money starts getting pushed around. Like, it for sure doesn't work. But, you know, having said that, I think he's been a pretty big part of PGF for quite a few seasons now. He came into season 6 and a lot of people didn't think he was going to do well, and he did freaking great. He had a great run. I think he belongs there. I think he deserves at least another invite to season 7. Maybe after that, you make him earn his way back. I don't know, depending on his performance, who knows? But, you know, if I was running things and I'm not smart enough to run that, I would give him an invite. I'd like to see him there. I think the fans want to see him. So I hope something can be figured out on that front.
I have 2 pitches here. The first is maybe give him a super fight. Like, there is a way to integrate him, and maybe it means it's less wear and tear on his body, but he's still involved. Or 2, and this is the one, don't take me at being harsh on this, but sometimes it's not your year to do one. Like, you know how many people hit us up being like, ooh, as soon as you do this weight class, I'm in. And they're waiting their turn. Like, sometimes they just rotate the classes. They rotate the weight class. This might be one of those off junctions. The hard part is because the momentum and because he's a staple, it feels like it's a personal affront to him. When in actuality, it's like, it is kind of close to your weight class. But, I mean, maybe this is your off cycle. You were just on. And everybody wants to be on at all times. So that's why I mentioned the first one, which is give him a super fight, that he has a steady presence. He can be on there. Lord knows we need it as some sort of holding place. And we're at a place now where he's definitely got a lot of storylines with a lot of different competitors that you could put in that position where when we need to take a stop down in between a tournament, you could put that match on. And I think that's a great finals day sort of thing.
No, and I definitely wanted to make sure to stress, like you just said there too, there's definitely not like a personal thing from anyone towards him, that it's not like he's not good enough or not deserving of anything of that nature. It's just the fact of trying to have less people who are teammates on the thing, so that way there would be conflicts during the season or potential weird situations going on. Just wanna, if that didn't come across clean earlier, that it's not because of like any lack of respect or lack of thought that he should belong there in any way. It's just a matter of, if there is an like if the fact is that his senior teammate gets a spot and that's the way it's kind of going, then winning a qualifier makes it undeniable for you to be there. They can't deny you.
Listen, Steven, I know you're trying to make sure your point is as clear as can possibly be, but if I know the jabroni, he probably stopped listening after he heard what he heard.
Oh, and I'm not necessarily talking to him. I'm talking to everybody else. The fans out there. I want the fans to know. Elijah, I don't give a shit what you think if you're listening. I hate you.
I do actually, Elijah. I'm not trying to have a feud with you anymore.
I am.
Peace.
I'll be honest. I don't even know who I have feuds with. So half the time I'm in some and I don't even know. And when somebody's like, "Oh, they didn't like you," I was like, "Oh, okay, sounds great. Let me know how it goes." I just like to tell people. Well, again, yes, the most imposing force in all of jiu-jitsu. I just like to tell people this. Actually, I just like to tell people this. I don't think that any coverage is against somebody, and a no coverage will ever say, "I don't ever want you to appear on this." It could be evaluating it. And the nice part about this is saying, well, maybe he has an off cycle. It could be something that he hears and he's like, well, fuck them. I should always have a presence on there. It's just, I think we're going to be doing a lot of different weight classes. And I think that at a certain point, all of those athletes who want to get on, it's a good thing. I think what you should be more concerned with is if you lose your place in the respective weight class that you're at. So if you were afforded a spot into the PGF, it's going to get harder to maintain that spot. But what might help is, I don't know, being one of the top point holders or being somebody who makes the finals, which he did. So those have to be factors that be in some kind of consideration when you go forward at that weight class. At 205, it's going to be very intriguing to see what happens. And if we are starting to get them as like 2 people per weight class, you kind of have to do that qualifier process, not because we don't like you or because we don't appreciate what you've done for the history of the sport. It's just the rule of, hey, listen, we're really trying to make it so that more teams are represented. And it's not a reflection of, well, let's kick him out of here. It's a, hey, man, in order to grow this is a theory. This is a thought. This is a concept. And like I said, if we were able to put him on a super fight sort of capability, I think it accomplishes all of those and puts you as a forerunner to return back to that 85 weight class that we just did. So I don't think you would lose that position. And the reality of it is many of the people who competed at the previous one will lose their spot because of the evolution of the sport and more people now that they've seen it. Do you know how many people were knocking on my door? And I'm like, I'm not in charge.
Yeah, right. Give me a PGF, dude.
Here. I can put you on the pre-show, but that's about it, dude. And I got to be honest with you. As anybody who works these shows knows, you don't just come here for a free ride. You get put to work. So like the minute somebody's like, ooh, I want to be on there. And I was like, you want to do work? Okay. Well, here, I need this and I need this by midnight. Shut up, do the work. So just saying, everything comes at a price. So there is that. I like this too. And it says, Wallow J, Handsome Kevin will be at the Nashville qualifier. It would be cool to see Eli show up too. I mean, listen, dude, that would be probably one of your favorite things to give a super fight to. It's just these two, I don't know, man. They're going to be good for entertainment fodder for years to come. So that part is never going to go away until the two of them release their tell-all book where they're like, actually, we were in cahoots the whole time. We were best friends. So there is that. All right, gents, let's go to this last one, which is the gallery in itself. So this is where we take hold of the pulse of jiu-jitsu and we see some of the comments that are making the comment section. Now, I believe, Tim, you found these first three, and the first of which has to deal with, and it's quite worthy, and it says, this is for the safe rep, right?
Yes, these are safe rep related from our good friends at Reddit.
Well, God bless them. Thank you. And it says, police officers who use their proprietary techniques without paying licensing fees first will be fined for infringing upon the intellectual properties of Gracie's. Anyone caught on World Star doing the same will be subjected to a minimum 1 year Gracie Bar sign up. Must buy gi in-house. Cancellations must be executed by students themselves and are only allowed in case of death. So, somewhat facetiously addressing the lesser parts that people don't read in their jiu-jitsu contract agreements. Very funny. As per this, there should be some votes up. I may actually go on Reddit and vote up that one myself. But we'll go to our second comment here, which is, well, Tim, you can take this one.
This comes from Mavy2. He said, I've now patented jumping jacks. Guys, be honest and Venmo me if you do them. I didn't patent jumping jacks, but I patented two-person jumping jacks where you hold hands with another person and you do a jumping jack. You can't do that unless you have a license. So just saying.
It's quality stuff. We'll go to our third comment here. And this one comes to us from Fugu Sandwich. And it says, what turns a gift wrap into a safe wrap is yelling, stop resisting. Otherwise, it's just a gift wrap and not patentable. Yeah, I mean, listen, dude.
I like that.
I think everybody's thinking out the logical aspects of what we're seeing here. And we're just all concerned about how it's going to go. Now, listen, Stephen, you have to set up the context for the one you found, because I can't just put this up in good faith without having some sort of explanation. So how did you find this comment and where did you find it?
I was on Instagram, just like pre-show, looking for some stuff to kind of talk about here, trying to find, someone in the community that really like had a good feeling for things that were going on. And especially like with the CJI wrapping up their 80 plus kilograms. And so I felt like this was like a finger like directly on how the community may feel in some ways about the CJI event.
Okay. So here is the comment. Do you care to read this one, Steven?
Get Erbert out of jail just for a weekend.
So he gets a weekend visitation.
It's like a work pass.
Like when your grandpa dies, you get to go to the funeral. He's got a tracking device on him. That's not even funny.
I told Steven that I didn't see any other part of this message. It came in my Instagram DMs, and I didn't see anything other than out of jail. And I go, oh no, I didn't have any context. I go, I don't know that I want it. And then I opened it up and I said, okay, that's very funny. Yeah, I would say this. So Erbert is still in jail. I don't even remember. I don't even know.
I don't know either. I just thought that was a funny. Just
I was
the funny line of
being
thinking.
informative at this point because I was like, wait, is he? I mean, I think he should be. I guess that's how that goes. Let's go through a couple of these comments that people put while the show was going on. And Michael Libby, I did notice you put this up, and it says, let me correct myself. Cornhole is serious for dudes that are deployed stateside only for barbecues. That is fair. Thank you for that, Michael. But you did have an actual question that I will pose to the group here, and it says, question for the panel. Can you be a world champion in jiu-jitsu today without using the current jiu-jitsu meta? I'll start with you, Tim.
Yeah, I think that's how you become the world champion is you fracture the meta enough that people aren't playing that game. The meta is not the pinnacle. The meta is what people are doing now. It's like when you're playing your cousin in Street Fighter 2 and you've played 79 games in a row, and then they start doing something subtly different and it screws your timing up, and now they beat you 13 times in a row again. That's the meta shifting. If you just keep playing to the game, you're playing into the game. It's the people that are kind of leading it or breaking it. Those are the ones that are finding the success generally. The rest of us are kind of following. We're the long tail of people that are like, oh, we want to copy what they're doing. So yeah, I think that's how you win. I think you win outside of the meta, to be honest with you. That's my own personal.
Copy that. Steven.
No, I guess that's basically kind of what I was going to say too, is like, I think if you're looking at the meta, that's basically what everybody else is already doing, the main things that everybody's already kind of studying, and you're trying to catch up to what's already kind of happening. So you need to be someone that is outside of the box, or maybe even circling to old stuff that would counter some of the meta that people are trying to use now, because it's like lost and forgotten techniques or something. Sometimes, things that people are rebranding and naming things. Maybe you can do some of that.
I mean, I'll just say this. I think that what always works traditionally, though, for jiu-jitsu is there is a certain classic version of jiu-jitsu that sometimes works on the people who are doing the fanciest of stuff in the gym. And I'm always intrigued to see, like, good principles like passing guard, playing like Lovato, playing like a JT will always have a place. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be something that surprises people when you're like, oh shit, who knew passing still works? I think there are principles that people get lost on because there's like a new thing that everybody starts doing. And it's not bad to be on the trend. It's just, listen, Mika Galvo is still a great example of somebody who understands a modern game, but really, if you break down his shit, it is very classic in its approach. It's just the children are learning. Everybody's getting faster and everybody's getting smarter at what they do. So everything is possible, but all things are possible through
Elio Gracie.
Not through Jesus, guys. Like Jesus, everybody's got Jesus on their side.
I was going to say Michael
Acai is
Libby.
way more. What's that?
Michael Bisping.
Oh,
Libby,
come on,
Michael
man.
Libby.
So is Michael Libby one of yours, Steven?
Oh, Michael Libby.
No.
Michael Libby's up here in Nashville now. Yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, Libby.
Well,
birthday,
you know
Libby.
what? We are now a restaurant. Happy birthday to you. We're going to
Hey,
come through with the Pizookie.
Hey, happy Pizookie.
By the way,
BJ's. I love it. That's
can I tell you, my wife and I went to go to a happy hour. We rush in. This is how close we were. It's 6:55. We literally ordered 2 margaritas at once. So we're just like, you get 2, I get 2. So we have 4 margaritas between the two of us. We tell them exactly what we want. And I'm scarfing down all of this food within 5 to 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden to the side, I thought, this is amazing. They do a Mexican birthday, but they have like a sign where they put like the, hey, it's your birthday kind of notice, but they get a noise clacker. So they're literally just... And I go, what the fuck is that? And my wife goes, it's the cost for good food. And I go, fuck this. Oh my God. Yeah, okay, fine. But it's been a while since someone had a noise clacker that made all of this stuff. And I have this taco halfway in my mouth. Like, that's really good. No, this is very much worth it. So we made it and we did it. Gentlemen, here's what we did. We made it through all the topics. We should start cutting it out. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell people where they can find you, where they can come train with you, or where they could see you next. I'm going to start with you, Steven. The attention should turn all to you, sir.
You can find me on Instagram at the Dream 10P, Stephen Aiken in other places. I think it's the Dream 10P on YouTube. Still there. Find me in Perry, Georgia, teaching here at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu Perry. That's my school. I have a camp in Costa Rica in October. Got a couple spots available for that. I'm only like letting cool people come though, so it's not really for sale. You gotta like ask me if you can come, and then I'll tell you if you can come or not. So if you want to come, let me know. I'm probably gonna tell you no, but we can see what happens.
All right, Tim.
You can catch me on Inside BJJ, all the social media platforms, Inside BJJ, InsideBJJ.com. If you're out in Nashville, come check us out at 10th Planet Nashville. If you're in the 209, please check us out at 10th Planet Stockton. You can find me at so we got a new show coming out tomorrow. We're going to try to do it live. I'm trying to bring some juice to it a little bit. So that'll be tomorrow evening. Check that out if you're available. youtube.com/InsideBJJ. Outside of that, man, I'll see you out in Las Vegas if you're going to be out there, and going to Karate Combat in Nashville. And Liz Carmouche is fighting out here on April 2nd, I think, for PFL. So if you're out there, give us a holler.
Very excited for that. We also will talk a little bit more about that Karate Combat next week, as I saw a matchup that I'm super stoked about that we will talk about again next week. So thanks to all of you. And Michael, I did want to leave just kind of putting this up here. There's not much more to say other than the Jabroni should have earned a permanent residence for any event the PGF puts on, because he's been such a pillar throughout the earlier seasons. And then it says, as long as he can make weight. So I'm glad you put the asterisk there, because that would be great if he showed up for the 140ers and he's like, I mean, I have the ability to do this, and you dicks have to deal with it. So appreciate that. Gentlemen, great work this week.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate you guys very much. I'm going to close this bitch up, but I will talk to you guys off air. And thanks to all of you who watched this week. So, as you may know, tomorrow we should be back, I think, with a version of Running the Gauntlet. I'm going to confirm with the guest, but you will see us back here next Wednesday with another guest host. We have lots of stuff coming up. Do not go anywhere. Please enjoy this broadcast. If you're watching on Inside BJJ or the Grappling Hour, like, comment, and subscribe. If you have no idea what you want to comment on, why don't you tell us what you think will be the spoiler of Season 7 of the PGF? We're just starting that whole process. The qualifiers start very soon, literally the week after ADCC and the Craig Jones Invitational. So start giving us your spoilers now, because that season's about to pick up very quickly. Additionally, you guys can check out my stuff at patreon.com/grappling hour. We put up new content every single week, and we have more that is coming. You can see my interviews 30 days before anybody else, and for a few extra dollars, you can see extra bonus content that's not available anywhere else, including Roast RAF and some other technique breakdowns with other athletes themselves. Ladies and gents, I think that's going to do it for us here at the Bullpen. My thanks to you. It has been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.